So I would like to start this part 2 of my rant saying thank you to everyone who's watching, and I guess to myself for being patient with me. I've been pretty concerned about not being a very good YouTuber. That's a lot of the reason I hadn't decided to post any videos or record. It's not by any means or any stretch of the imagination that I don't have anything to say, because we all know that's true. That's not true if you know me, in the sense that there's things that I'd like to articulate, and I think, or that I do, and but it's it's been one of my biggest concerns was, oh man, I don't have any introduction skills. I don't know how to say hey guys. I mean, I guess I do, but I don't know, freak myself out, psych myself up for a long time. And like, there's a whole setup issue, and I can't even remember, I've taken a couple takes of this, in the last video, or getting to the first video, where like my recorder ended up dying, and then I got a video of me testing the camera that was like 5 minutes long, trying to figure out a setup for the mic. It was a mess. Or for the mic to the recorder, because I had like the lapel mic on, because I'm like, I'm not dealing with hiding this today, it's one of those days. Anyway, thank you for being patient, and yeah, so the second part of my rant, if you haven't, check out the other video, it's part 1. There may be a link, I have no idea, so I can't promise like a link in the description or a little pop-up thing. I'm not that advanced in YouTubing at all. It took a lot to just get me in front of the camera. The second part of my rant is just me wanting to touch on a couple of just things that I thought about throughout the day. And I guess in short, the second part of this is, I think it's really important to consider that, when you interact with someone, you're not really sure, I don't know how to put this. You only ever know somebody based on your perception of them, right? So, like, you only ever experience someone through you as a, like I'm Kristen, and let's say I meet one of the viewers or somebody, and I only ever know them as well as I can understand and perceive, or as poorly, or as whatever. The limitations are relative to me as well. So, with that in mind, I think, sorry, I'm going to adjust again. My knees are getting all sore. I think with that in mind, it's important to consider the fact that, or I guess this is segueing from my first point, which was, action is not necessarily whether actions that are taken in someone's best interest may not always necessarily be the case. And so the second point to that is that because, you will only ever experience them through you, their best interest may not necessarily be something you are within your bounds to know. In some cases it is, which is why I wouldn't say that definitively. In the case of, we know that like, if it's in your best interest in a car to like wear a seatbelt, because you're not supposed to be out of the car, in which case you'd be out of the car, and you want to stay in the car, you buckle in, which is just a really quick, in a nutshell kind of example. But that's more or less what we're trying to say, which is, the best interest of someone and then someone's best interest, I think, are two slightly different things. But I think part of the responsibilities that come with empathy or sentience, or something being sentient rather, involves knowing that limitation and knowing where your line is, or where the point in which you can't, cross, or what the good stopping point would be. Aristotle talks a lot, or in the Aristotelian, mindset in terms of ethics. It's like Nikio Macchiet. I can't pronounce it. I will try to and update video later. In that type of, I don't want to say ethical theory because it's not quite an ethical theory, but in that approach to ethics, I guess, that golden mean concept. So in a nutshell, there's vices on either side of a virtue, which is in the middle, or the middle is a golden mean. So rather, you can have a vice of too much courage or too little courage. You can have too much patience, too little patience. Anything is, everything has a middle golden mean in which, you have the responsibility of achieving in order to be the best self. It's not quite what he said. I'm paraphrasing and, shortening, for the sake of video, and for moving on to the point really quick, because, on my phone camera, it's a shorter video time, so sorry. But, anyway, the ability to understand that, while we're empathetic or we're sentient or we have an understanding of other people's, consciousness, we do have the responsibility to know where those lines are and to respect, the fact that, we are able to acknowledge them. And then from there, to what point are we, is that too much? And so it's pretty straightforward when you think about it in terms of an action, or like your default position in every situation is like, okay, I haven't done this. So you haven't like not gone somewhere, or I haven't gone somewhere. You're in a point of decision making, I guess. So understanding that that's a good place to pause, and that you don't have a default, like I'm doing this thing always, and like the default position is not either or, doing something or not doing something. It's necessarily not the thing yet. So it's a little abstract, but from there, I think I'd like to defend that or argue that it's important to take in that time and to realize, like, acting so as to benefit is not something that's very easily understood, especially by someone who is not really like into reading old and rant and new, and spending a lot of hours in these things like ethical theory. That it's a bigger picture, and it's a lot more to consider, and it's a very complicated web of interactions that are necessarily why humans are so cool, and not just humans but other species, and yada yada, the arguments on AI and whatnot. And so with that ability comes that, that line that you have to, that necessarily, because you're able to do something, you have the ability to balance within it, and necessarily achieving the telos or purpose of something, I think, is attributed, almost entirely in the balance of it being, because, if you're yourself on happy and sad days, but your job as you're being yourself is to be yourself through those in the best version of yourself possible. Happy, sad, that doesn't mean you have the same emotional or affect necessarily, but that you are true to what you are and make decisions. And making decisions, I guess my point is a separate thing. So yeah, and I will decide to keep ranting. Look at part 3.